And we're live. All right, just a second, everybody. Apparently, everything decided to freeze at the second. Technical difficulties over in my land here. Scarlett? No.
Everybody.
Mute this. Put two different cameras here so I can actually get two different vantage points.
Oh, that's nice. All right. Not sure if anybody's with us yet, but tonight we've got Ron with BBM Reptiles.
Yes, good evening. Thank you very much for having me on.
I'm very excited. I love the Four Horsemen, so I've got two of them scheduled.
Yes, the half of the equation.
Yeah, the better half of the equation.
Actually, in whole, I have to say we have equal function in that.
Oh yeah, I just like to poke fun. It's always a good time. Yes, it is an early stream tonight because Mr. Ron is also booked with Chino later on his channel.
Yes, DMJ or Chino, actually he has a late night segment with me at 9:30, which is 10:30 my time. So basically, it's enough time actually to get for that late night TV viewing or anything which you would prefer.
Or I get to bed early for a night because it's been late nights the past 3 nights.
Oh,
so
okay.
We're pulling the streams lately. When I initially decided to do these 2 series, the New Breeders and the Mentors, I didn't think of how many people would actually want to do it, especially where I'm so new. So I kind of was like, okay, yeah, just pick a slot, and didn't think I'd be getting like 4 or 5 a week.
You know what? You'd actually be surprised, because the thing is, especially this with the reptile community, we can't shut up. We love talking. So finding someone to actually say, I don't have time, it's impossible. Unless they owe you money, if it's not that, then basically, they'll have time for you.
Kayla, Marvel Balls UK, said you need to get Rich too, specifically for her. She's over in the UK, so.
Well, the thing is, we have to actually do it. Rich is a real essential part of the Four Horsemen. He originated.
Oh yeah.
And there's, I believe, a 6-hour difference, if I'm not mistaken, between myself and Richard.
So
Rob, Rob would be, well, if you have that viewer from the UK, then basically she's on the same time slot. Rob is 12 hours difference, and Shane, I believe he's 4 hours away, a 4-hour difference for me.
Yeah. Fun fact: New Brunswick, Canada, and Puerto Rico are in the same time zone.
Atlantic time zone, Atlantic savings, or AST
standard
would be Atlantic Standard Time.
Standard time. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. Fun fact of the day. No, I'd love to get all 4 horsemen on, but I don't think the other 2 know who I am yet. So we'll get there. We'll get there.
Well, between me and Shane, we'll make sure that we get the other 2 on board.
Yeah, it would actually be quite funny to say claim to fame. I got all 4 of them in one spot. So if anybody doesn't know, this is Ron with BBM Reptiles. He's one of the 4 horsemen, along with Shane Kelly and Rich. And my mind is blanking. I'm tired. There's another 4 horsemen, and I can't remember his name at the second. My mind's blanking. I added all your links into the description. If you're not following Ron, please go give him a follow. So tonight is night 2 of the Mentor series. I picked Ron as one of the mentors. Which, by the way, thank you for joining. I appreciate it.
Again, I said, I really appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, I love it. So if you had, let's start off. If you had, say, I'm new, I'm starting out. I came to you and I said, look, Ron, I really like ball pythons. How should I get started? What's the first thing you're going to tell me?
Okay. Now, being the benefit of actually where I am, and for those viewers that don't know, I am located in Puerto Rico. And the benefit about being here in Puerto Rico versus stateside is that we are considered a virgin market. And what I mean by a virgin market is that we're always approached by someone that is new and with this with reptile keeping.
Okay.
So we'll always have that I mean, like it's a constant thing. I gotta say, even myself when I first started, I had no idea what values ball pythons were, besides basically what was shown to me at that time. I didn't know a difference from a pastel from a normal. They were basically, they're all the same for me. And the question of that I get that someone's always starting is, I have to say, if you were to start with a single ball python, whatever mutation you decide to actually acquire, and especially if it's your first one, I'd have to say there's two factors. One is try to get a female first. It doesn't matter the mutation, even if it's a normal, but try to get a female first. And the reason I always emphasize starting out with a female as a very first ball python is because you don't know how that transition or that time that you have with that ball python will actually mean. I mean, like, it might be a fluke of the moment that you just want to actually have a snake because you saw someone actually holding on to one, or you saw a video and you figured it would be cool for you to have a snake.
Yeah.
But as you keep it, and maybe you have someone in your household that has an extreme phobia, that even if they tolerate it at that first moment, maybe you might have an issue with that household member that you would have to actually adopt off. I would say that ball python that you acquired. And I've actually seen that it is a lot easier to place over a female ball pythons, because there are so many people that are so committed into breeding. Their main priority is acquiring any female. It doesn't even matter what it is, because a female will make a collection for that person who acquires it.
Yep.
Now, on the flip side, if you do at one time or another, you do decide that you want to breed, and you're lucky enough that everyone in your home is happy that you have a snake, you have a female, and you have so many different avenues actually to choose to decide as that female grew, which direction you want to actually take it. If you want a specific combo, if you want to work a specific project, it's that female that's actually that groundworking or that ground breaking, I would say, moment to actually start any collection.
Yeah.
And the second thing I would have to say is try to get the prettiest snake you can get. Again, going back to that person that, or someone in your family that does have a phobia, normals aren't that pretty, and bananas are real less expensive, and so are the albinos. So start out with something that's visually impressive but not that expensive, is another door opener for a lot of people that has a phobia towards ball pythons or even snakes. And that can actually help you with that also. So those are the two things I always say someone, or I actually advise someone starting out new.
Good advice. We did the opposite. We started off with a male. We weren't knowing we were going to breed, but what worked out for us is that in the end, it turned out to be a female.
Funny story. That's exactly how my first ball python started. I just picked a snake. I just picked up a snake because it was sold to me. Not really interested in what morph it was, and it was sold as a male. And because it was a male, I figured, you know what, let me try my hand on breeding and let me get a female for this one. And when I got that second snake, which was a female, that's when I learned the first one was actually a female. So I started running really good, as a matter of fact, when I started my first snakes.
Yeah, that's actually how I started spotting like signs of ovulation in snakes. We had another snake too at this time before we went into breeding, and we were told it was a male ivory. And I'm looking at this thing, and it's so white, it looks like a bell. Like it just glowed, and it's lumping, and it's bull wrapping. And I'm like, and it's 2, and it's 4 feet long, and it's 1350. And I'm like, that's female. So that's how Kathleen learned how to probe. So yeah, that ended up being female too. So that's happened to me twice now, and it's possibly happening a third time. We don't know yet.
Wow. I mean, like, to actually jump from popping to probing, I mean, like
Yeah.
that's like an experience right there, just to start out.
Well, like John, my significant other, he's more comfortable with the popping. I'm more comfortable with the probing, so we have both ways covered between us.
Okay.
It's just like I can pop and just better probing myself, and he can't probe anything for the life of him, so he just pops, and that's the way he does it. So I said, either way, we have both ways covered, because
Yeah, I
I think
find the
it's
full
good for you to
benefit.
know how to do both.
Exactly. That's a point that I was about to make. I find the full benefit of actually making both because I got to be honest, I'm not too good at popping adult snakes, especially the females, because obviously, when we're talking about a 2,000 or 3,000 gram snake, um,
Mm-hmm.
they have absolute control of their muscles. So they will fight you to actually try to prove or pop what it is. And that's
Yeah.
when I go to my pro kit.
Yeah, that's usually when I go to the probe kit. John will, hold the snake out so I have better access and drop her in. And away we go. We actually have a clown right now. We're trying to figure out if it's male or female because it doesn't lock. And I'm its sixth owner. It's never locked before. It's male. I probed it as female, but we'll see. I said the only way we're going to know for sure, there's no way 6 people can be wrong, is to try it out.
And that's the funny thing. I mean, like, you don't want to get to that point when you actually bring up a male to the size of an adult female, thinking that you have a female. And
Mm-hmm.
when you actually put them out to pair and you hear them fighting like crazy in the tub, and
Yeah.
then you're figuring out that you actually have 2 males in there. But then again, one of the males is actually 3,000 grams.
Well, and that's the thing, that this was sold to me as a male clown, but it's never locked a female ever. It's been bred by 5 other people other than me. It never locked, never sired a clutch, so we don't know. I probed it as female. So we're just I'll put it in with a female and try that way first. And they're chilling, they're hanging out, they're intertwining, so God only knows what's going to happen. I figured the female was the safe bet before I try a male in with it.
Yeah, if not, at least they'll end up as good friends when the season's done.
Yeah, they'll be besties. Another one, I always ask this, and I know a lot of people hate when new people ask this, but I always do. If you're going into it and you're learning about there's a lot of morphs. There really is a lot of morphs, and it's overwhelming. If you could suggest one morph just to start off on and build around that as you're learning, what would be that one morph?
Oh gosh, I mean, like it would have to be banana. It would have to be banana. And the reason banana is because it goes back to what I said earlier about having a snake that is appealing to someone that actually is fearful. And banana or I would say albino, or if you're lucky enough, even to get a piebald. I mean, like you want something when you're starting out, the main thing that I have actually seen that can actually be detriment to a person's growth is their surroundings. I mean, like there's a lot of people when they're starting in the hobby, or even starting out with a single pet as a snake, during their time, they're always going to have a problem with someone that just doesn't like snakes. I mean, like they have that phobia, and it's hard to get that person on board. And it's real easy. I mean, like even if you're not even consider breeding at all, it could be a blue eye leucistic complex. I mean, like an ivory. It could be a super fire, a super lesser, a super Mojave, or out of all of those. I mean, like I'm talking about entry level snakes. That's not really going to set you back too much, because what you want to do is you want to get something that is appealing, and it's going to help you make an argument that why you should actually have said pet. So you want something as pretty as possible as you can get, and something that obviously it's not going to break the bank, and will help you make that transition if you decide to be a breeder in the future, or if you actually just want to keep that pet long term.
Yeah, we John's family won't step foot into our house because we have snakes.
You would have no idea. As a matter of fact, my wife, it's so funny, and I tell this story so many times. When I first met her, when we were going through our courtship, she was actually trying to basically, I would say, smile at every glee and funny, non-funny joke that I would say when you
Mhm.
started that courtship. And I at one point I did have my snake collection, and it was very limited. I mean, like, honestly, it was only like six snakes, and even before that, it was funny. Um, I was I was on a dating site. I was on a dating site, and the profile picture I used
Mhm.
was with me and a snake on around my neck, and I got zero responses. I mean, like, nobody. I'm like, that really kind of messes up your self-esteem,
They they
after a
actually
while.
they actually have dating groups now for her keepers.
Oh yeah, well now, I mean, like, heck, now I'm already married. I mean, like, that boat's already gone,
Yeah.
But back then, actually, when I started, one person wrote me, and that person wrote me, "You are cute, but that snake is it's a dead getter. It's not going to work for you. You can't put a profile picture with a snake." And I was like, "Yeah, but it's what I like." Well, the thing
Mhm.
is, when I met my wife at that time, I showed her my very humble collection, which was only six snakes, and she followed me gullibly into my snake room with six snakes. I mean, like, heck. And she was like, "Wow, this is nice." And that not so convincing way she said it, I was still sleeping with my snake. I mean, like, I wasn't to the point that I was like, well, either I get a girlfriend or I keep my snakes. I was like, no, I'm keeping my snakes.
Yeah, snakes.
I wasn't,
Snakes.
yeah, I wasn't that much in need. But the thing is, as time went on, and we were we came to the point we started living together. It was about like 8 months after that.
Mhm.
um I walked out the house for a second just to basically go to the store, and I'm turning the car on, and I'm hearing a scream, and I'm like, and I'm thinking it's the radio, and I know the music to the radio because I like my '80s music, and
Yep.
you get your Def Leppard or anything like that, and it's all screaming, so you think it's the music,
Mhm.
and she starts running outside, and I was like, what's going on? She's like, oh, one of your snakes got out, and you better get it before I chop it up. And I was like, what? But she was pale white,
Oh yeah.
pale white. And this was 8 months already into the, I mean, like, she really tried her best to actually, hold
Yeah.
on. But the icebreaker, this is the thing, the icebreaker that actually transitioned her during the time was that I actually gave her a banana. And that
Okay.
banana basically opened the door for her. I mean, like, it
Mhm.
was that cosmetically beautiful color or the pattern on that snake that
Yeah.
basically it did it for her. So with that, it basically helped me build my collection even more, because now I had support from someone that was starting being more accepted of what I was actually working with, only
Mhm.
because of the color. Now, if it was just under a regular GHI, which GHIs are incredible, or a blackhead, or even a mahogany, but these are dark color snakes that's not appealing to the normal people or the,
Yeah.
the basic hobbyists. Someone that's starting out new, if you're going to show them a GHI, I don't care how much he paid for it. um it's a snake, and that's not something that's too appealing. So you got to
Yeah.
basically work your way in, and then eventually grow to whatever path you decide to take.
Yeah. I think I'm one of the few people that do not like banana. That doesn't do for me. A year ago, I told John we'll never have snakes. Nope, no interest. Nope, none. And then guess who bought the first snake?
Okay.
Me.
Now, which was it, the first one that you picked up?
So the first one I picked up. Now at this time, I knew a little bit about stuff because we were keeping like bearded dragons and things like that. So I understood like generally things about morphs and stuff like that. We weren't even looking at breeding, but his dream snake at that time was a super pastel Enchi.
Okay.
So I messaged someone and I'm like, look, I want a male. I don't want to deal with the possibility of it coming egg bound or anything like that, because again, lizard world, I know if a lizard comes egg bound, you can do Pitocin, we're good to go. snakes, you can't do that. So that was my big fear. So I bought him, which that snake's female anyways, but that's what I bought him. Then we took in my ivory from a bad situation from a snake hoarder, and just her personality is what did me in.
Okay.
So we had the super pastel, and she now isn't touching it. Nope, it was a young one. So I mean, it's still in that phase of I'm going to eat you because I'm big and scary, even though I'm like 10 inches long. But the ivory was a big snake, but just so handleable and sweet, and that's what did me. And then I'm like, okay, he got permission to buy some more, and I'm like, all right, let's start charging these guys rent. Let's start breeding.
Let them pay their ways.
Yeah. I say that jokingly. I'm not doing it for the money, but let's get this going so we can put more money back into it. Type deal. Right. So, yeah, and then the ivory and the super pastel, and she ended up being female anyways. So,
it's funny when you're talking about snippy snakes, especially when they're starting out so young. That's basically that's their temperament when they're young. I mean, like, I don't have a single adult snake that ever, even at feeding time, ever have I had an issue of them nipping at me. Now, hatchlings, that's part of basically their development and their growth. And they're trying, because remember, they're at the most stressed when they're at that young, small age versus when they're already large as they are, and their girth alone gives them that comfort that they're a lot more manageable. And I tell a lot of people, especially when they're starting with their first snakes, and they always tell me, "Oh, my snake is nippy. It's always biting. Is there anything I could do to calm it down?" I always tell them those are the best ones, because those are the ones that will never refuse a meal. I mean, that's another big issue that I get from a lot of people when they're starting out, is that they're wondering why their snake doesn't eat. And I mean, like, that stress is even more stress for a new keeper. And I always tell them, especially if you got a nippy one, you won't have to worry about that snake ever refusing a meal.
Yep. I kind of laughed a little bit when you said none of your adults are nippy. We have one that's nippy, but only when she's building. When she's building, she's a monster. Like, she'll see the rat, you're holding the rat out for you. She doesn't care. She's going for you.
Okay.
Only when she's building. When it's not that time, she's really chill. So I think she's just, she's PMSing. So, yeah, she actually, it's my Mystic Crystal. She went from like a nice light snake kind of to she's dark. It looks like a complete
inner soul.
Yeah. So she's an evil thing right now. Not a huge fan of her, but she's not turning down a meal. So we actually had to go up a size a little bit, like from a small to a medium when she's building, or she gets really aggressive. Really aggressive. So that's subdued her a little bit. So she's right now being paired to my clown, my visual clown.
Okay.
So I'm excited about that one. Get some hets going.
I'm all about hets. I mean, like, I know one time, I believe it was on our Instagram live that we did last week with Chino. You had that question about which direction to take a specific project. Yeah. Either you were going to go with a het, or if you're going to go with a codom. Yeah. And me, I'm a builder. And even though it takes time, a lot of people, it's like, for example, if you're walking down a boulevard and you see this high-rise building, but you weren't there in the process that it actually took to build, but you're admiring how beautiful that construction, that architecture was made. But if you were there 2 or 3 years or even 8 years back and you saw when they were breaking ground, it wasn't appealing. And that's how I find hets. A lot of people, they avoid hets because of that, because you're just producing normals. Yeah. And when we go back to what we want to see, a normal is not something that's really impressive, but it's that groundwork of when you actually make something. Yep. It's going to put you in a league with so many people. And what it shows, especially, like, for example, if we go back to these big names that are extremely well established. We just see them now in what they're producing. I mean, like, we don't go back 10 or 8 years or 15 years and go through their Facebook or your early comments of the YouTube and see what they started out. We're just seeing what they're producing now.
Yep.
And that's how I want to see myself, as a matter of fact. That's why I work so hard making as many heads as I can, because when those heads are ready and I am in that position of making some incredible visuals, not only will I be surprising everyone who is following me, the biggest person that'll be impressed is myself, because it's that accomplishment that I've actually reached with the patients.
Yeah, I'm very aware that this year is a lot of making whole back females, a lot of hets for us. I'm working big with the asphalt genes, so making lots of asphalts. You know, a lot of, I almost treat asphalt like a het right now. So it's making a lot of the asphalts to either make really cool super asphalt or freeways. So that's this year. I probably won't, if I get anything this year, it's first season, so I'm not hopeful. I doubt I'll even sell anything. You know, it's going to be holding back a lot, just for future stuff, making those snakes I need to make the snakes I want.
Yeah, I mean, like, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of you. We all have to start somewhere. I mean, like, when I first started breeding, it was a shared project that I actually had, because when I started my first snake, I invested basically hard in females, and that's what I had was females. And at the very end is when I started acquiring a male, but my females were not ready to breed, but I had a breedable male. And that first season, when I actually did a shared breeding with someone else, there's so many variables that can actually go against you just because you want to break ground and have your first season. And I've went through that. As a matter of fact, it's funny. I joke around with the person when we had our first clutch. It was my orange dream male. I'm sorry. I had an orange dream male to a normal female he had. And that orange dream male, I purchased that in 2013, and that male cost me $1,000 versus $20 that he paid for his normal female.
Yep.
So when we came down to the eggs, obviously because it was a shared breeding, obviously we had to share it. The female only laid 3 eggs. And 3 eggs, when you come down to actually deciding who gets what, all she produced was normals.
Oh no.
And I joked about it. I told them, you know, it's a lucky thing that she produced normals, because that actually maintained our friendship. Because when we had to actually come down and break it down and say only one came out to be an orange dream, and obviously I'm gonna take it because mine was more invested in his, but then it would have actually created animosity between us, because that's something that he was hoping to get. So if there was another advice that I would actually give anyone, is if you can, fight the urge and avoid shared breedings. I mean, like, even if there's a project that you really want, just wait an extra year. You might get it on your own.
Yeah. Oh, that's good advice. I mean, we're kind of by ourselves where we're at, so we don't really have to worry about doing shared stuff too much. But yeah,
you'd be surprised, because it goes back to that first example that I was talking about when new people start in the hobby. The majority of the snakes that someone's going to pick up, and I've always actually talked to people about this. They're always going to pick up males. That's the first thing that they pick up. When you look at the end of the day, the person has 5 males and no females. So he's going to be looking left and right to see if he could find anyone to breed one of the males that he has with whatever females he could come across. That's why one of the main advice and that's something I always tell, especially when I have someone that comes to me and they want to acquire the very first snake, off the bat, I give them a female. That's the first thing I show them, because I want to actually save them that stress.
Yeah. I wish I had even, like, if I could even change back to April when we started, I would have bought, like, even all my visuals female instead of having all these visual males and grow them out. Because we kind of have like 3 collections. We have my snakes, his snakes, and then we have, if we're working with mutual genes, we'll buy it in a male so we don't have to fight over it. So we have like 3 collection, his, hers, and ours.
Oh gosh.
Because I said, I'm not fighting with you for snakes. No. Well, like we both want to work with pied, different things. He wants to do Suma Cine pieds. That's his goal. And I want to work, of course, like with Dreamsicle. I love to do lightning pieds, freeway pieds, those type things. So I'm like, well, instead of buying one female that's pied, let's buy a male so that way we can split off, make our hats, get our respective genes and females, and away we go. So that's kind of the weird way we did it. I don't know if it's the right way, but we're a little male heavy now, though.
You know, if anything, I've always say that even with the best advice, you have to make your own mistakes because that's the only way you actually know what's going to work for you. And I've always said, or my consideration in this is when you're starting out, I would compare this actually with the mid age or medieval ages when you would have a squire, and the squire would actually follow around the knight. He won't get paid, but basically he's there just for the experience. Mm-hmm. And that's the same way, for example, when you were talking about Reptile Ward, when he started out working in Billy's, he was basically cleaning snakes and for 8-9 hours. And he was there just because he was the most out of anything. He was picking up the benefits of what he was learning. Mm-hmm. And that will help him eventually in the long run. And when I started out, basically, I was cleaning snakes for someone for so many months until it came to the point that I basically started doing my own things. But that same example, I'm going back with what you said about sharing a project with your husband or your spouse. My wife invested in a snake. This is the very, very first high-end snake that she actually invested in. Mm-hmm. And the way we have it decided is basically whatever comes out of that clutch, I'm going to give her the first pick.
Yeah.
No matter how great it is. And if I'm losing or whatever, just because she's actually invested that much emotionally into this, I want to make sure that her first pick is going to keep generating a lot more of enthusiasm in her. So basically at the end, that's helping me out to continue my growth.
Yeah. I forgot. We also have another collection, the 6-year-olds.
Okay.
So she's breeding. She's got
everyone on board. I mean, like the kids. That's even more important. I got to tell you the truth.
Yeah, like I think part of the reason we went kind of so hard into it so quickly. I mean, I say that we have 24 ball pythons. I mean, it's not a crazy amount. Is because just the way she's so into it. Like she has her female pastel. It's a proven breeder. She's got that. She went down one day into the snake room because her male is not big enough yet. And she's ready to go anytime. She went through and she looked at all the snakes, all the males we had. She went and she looked at what she could make with them on the calculator. And she's like, Mom, I want to pair the Mojave asphalt to the pastel. I'm like, good girl. And then she goes, and I'm going to run Billy out of business.
He has age on his side. If anything, he has age on his side, or she has age on her side.
I told him that, and he just laughed. He thought it was funny. But apparently her big, possible she hits that Pastavi asphalt. Watch out, Billy. You're out of business. But I'll help her pick because of her age that what to hold back for her things, obviously. Unless, she really wants a pretty one, then I can't help her there.
Yeah,
but I think
the cool thing is getting them involved and seeing how they actually want to grow and visualizing what future projects or even a business that they can actually grow from this. I mean, like the thing is that you're investing in your child's imagination to the point that you're not putting limits in anything or any possibility. So if she's at that point, at that age, and I believe you said she's 6 years old.
She's 6, yeah.
if she's 6 years old and she's talking about running Billy out of business, I mean, like that ambition alone, I mean, like that's what builds youth. That's what builds
Yep.
character. That's
Yep.
basically the future prime minister or the future president. These are things that people take for granted when you have kids and they have at such a young age on a high goal. Don't take it away from them. Just fuel it as much
Oh
as you
yeah.
can.
And I remember when she had her female snake and she wanted to buy a male to get into the breeding. Hi, yes, I'm talking about you. I said, I was talking to Chris, the reptile ward. I said, I want to get her a simple single gene male that is het for something. So she can learn how recessive genes work, but she can also learn codoms.
Right.
So he did her good. So she has a yellow belly, het pied, and now she gets to learn how to prove out because it's 50% lavender.
Oh gosh. There you go.
So, yep. And she said she wants for Christmas a female lavender het pied so she can make yellow belly dreamskulls if he proves out. I'm like, oh my God. She's 6.
She has age on her side. She has age on her side.
Yes, I know you want a dreamsicle.
Because I made that thing.
Oh, she's just talking in the background.
I'm not from AOL.
Okay. Yep. I mean, it's so funny because I swear she knows more than we do.
I got to tell you something. When I first started and I can remember the year exactly, in 2013, I went to my very first meet and greet reptile activity here on the island. And I only had one snake, just one single snake. And going to that activity and meeting other people like-minded was one thing. But at that activity, and there was at least over 70 people. There was at least over 70 people at that activity. And I was sitting with my spouse, and on the corner, I actually saw a group of kids, and they were around 6 to like 9 years old, and it was like 7 of them. Each of them were going through every morph of ball pythons, and they were talking about combinations and combos. And I didn't know anything about combinations or morphs at that time. I was totally out of it. Just to see kids at that age. Excuse me.
Yep. Oh, we're all sick here. Come here. Come say hi. Stand up.
I forgot to get me something to drink. Oh my God.
Hi.
Hey.
She loves to break the live streams.
But yeah, seeing kids actually interact with different mutations and talking about it, it's actually it's so much that they're actually learning from it, even starting their own YouTube channel. I mean, like there's this one channel, I believe, and excuse me if I'm shouting them out, but CNC Reptiles, that's a father and daughter channel.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, you've seen it then, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like I love their channel, and I did a video with my grandson, as a matter of fact, and just seeing how excited they get, it actually adds on to the fun of doing what we do actually.
Yeah. Marva Balls UK said if she gets a Pastavi asphalt, then she can make Pastavi freeways. LOL, then run Chris out of business. True story though. Chris has dibs, and it's in a contract somewhere of buying a snake, being the first person to buy a snake from Scarlett. So if she does hit that Pastavi asphalt and she's not holding it back, it's going right to him. So
that's one step of knocking Billy off.
Yeah. Speaking of the reptile ward, he's in our Christmas tree.
I'm surprised he didn't catch it.
He probably stopped watching. No, thank you. Yes, they can all see that you lost your teeth. I keep joking that I'm gonna start if people send me stickers, I'll put them in the Christmas tree. We'll have a merch tree.
What's a merch tree?
Since
merch.
I still a merch tree. Merch tree.
But stickers for me, I'm going to
Okay.
put them.
Goodbye. Love you. Thank you for partaking. Children. Oh my goodness. And then I get distracted and get off topic because of children. No, I think if your child has the interest, though, you should definitely encourage it. Because we don't know, like Scarlett has autism, we don't know what's going to happen in 12 years when she's an adult. So if we can teach her this skill, she may not be able to work at, I don't know, a job, but she can still keep herself busy with something she loves.
You know, I gotta say something to that. With so many things in the world, and I feel sometimes that we put limitations. We put limitations on children for whatever conditions that they might be going through, and they can surprise you. They can surprise you, and not only that, especially at a young age when they already have goals, and you're actually building up on that, and you're tutoring to that point. Um, there's even beyond reptiles. I mean, like, you believe it or not, I wholly believe in this. This can open the door to so many different things. It doesn't have to necessarily be reptile related, but the thing is that you feel their curiosity and they're wanting to actually interact to learn more and better themselves.
Yep. No, I mean, I'm not tutoring too much. We're learning together because we're still new. I don't claim to know everything yet or much. I mean,
believe me, it does not matter how many years you've been doing this. And I speak for myself. And I've been basically breeding around 8 years, but I am more than confident enough to say that even a breeder with 30 years of experience has to go back to someone else just to get confirmation if they have a question about what they're looking at. So it's not something that, regardless of the time that you have, you never stop learning in this. And there's so many things that you can pick up from.
I keep saying that I'm gonna have to do an Instagram live or a YouTube live with my first clutch because I'm not gonna be able to ID a thing. I'm gonna be like, and what's this, guys? You know.
And let me tell you, the first pet peeve that I usually get is when I get pictures of a snake that's just came out the egg and it hasn't even had their first shed. And I'm supposed to ID it.
I mean, I'm going to be able to tell, like, if I've got a freeway.
Oh, yeah.
Those things.
It's like something I joke around with Shane, as a matter of fact. When I say that a banana's a banana, there's nothing you can't tell. You know, once you hit a banana, you know it's a banana. What else is on that? You know, you have to give it a while. But I personally I got to say that a snake can change so many different ways. Besides that first time when you cut the egg, besides when it actually starts getting air, besides when it actually has its first shed, and besides when it actually has its first few meals. It can actually change so many different times, even up to adulthood, as a matter of fact. So even once, I remember one time I was talking with Ozzy and Tinley, and we were talking about IDing snakes, and something that he told me that basically I stick with to this day is every breeder, when they're trying to identify a snake, we are all taking educated guesses because we're just going on what we've worked with and what we have an imagination because of what we produced, what an object or what a snake is supposed to actually look like when it actually comes out. But it's still an educated guess.
Yeah. Like, especially like with us too, where we're so far away from everybody and everything. A lot of these things that I have the chance to make, I've never seen in person. So unless it's really, and there goes an ornament. Unless it's in my collection and I have it in my hands now, I've never seen a freeway in person. I know what they look like, but I've never seen it. So I couldn't tell you.
That's why I always say Google is my friend.
Some of them though, I'm looking at Google, I'm like, I don't know what that is. I won't even take an educated guess because some of them they look the same to me. But once there's been things that look the same to me, but once I see them in person, I'm like, oh yeah, I can tell the difference. So I don't know. I guess I'm weird.
It took me 3 years more or less to know what or try to understand what a yellow belly is.
Yeah, we have Chris the Reptile Ward. He we recently got a big shipment from him, and in it there is a yellow belly pos motley het clown, and then there is a double het clown pied possible het hypo, and I knew exactly which one was which. Cleaning bids, John accidentally mixed them up, and I'm looking and I'm like, oh crap, who's who? Because they look so similar. I figured it out, and John's now not allowed to clean their bins, but I can tell the difference now. But in the beginning, it was hard.
Let me actually tell you, when you're working with heads, something that you have to. This is like a must.
Mm-hmm.
When you're working with heads, most of them are always going to be normals.
Yeah.
You would not want someone cleaning your racks and mixing one normal head with another normal head, and they're not even compatible at any way. For example, if you're working with your head lavenders, and all of a sudden you got your head clowns on the other side, and someone's helping you clean, and they mixed up the normals, which is head clown and which is head lavender.
Yeah.
So one thing that I personally do, because my son helps me with my cleaning, and he has the hardest job because he cleans the hatchling racks.
Mm-hmm.
I make sure that I memorize each individual normal. So if by chance anything does mix up, I know actually which is which because I memorize the simplest pattern of that normal versus the other normal heads.
That's what we started doing. And I'll even try to like give them a name based off of like a little weird part of their pattern.
There you go.
So that way I'm like, because we have the Super Pastel Engie and she's got lots of hearts in her pattern. So she's heartly. So, okay, yes, you're playing with ornament. Oh my goodness.
That's funny.
I loved it.
That's like when I was back in school and just before a test, I would actually sing the response to a question, so I would know it in song. So when the test would come, I would know it in song what the answer is. So that example you said with Hartley, you're going by a description and with the name, so it's basically the same thing. You're forcing yourself to remember that specific pattern.
Although when you get to 24 snakes, you kind of given up on naming them all.
Oh yeah.
That's when you just let the children have fun with it. Because Scarlett doesn't like when things are not named. So, yeah. Yes, I know you don't like things when they're not named. Oh my goodness, doing lives with children. So, we talked about that. I'm blanking because she's distracting me. I apologize.
I know, and we're just going off on that. I'm sorry too.
Yeah, that's okay. So recessives. We love recessives. So this is another question I ask. This whole podcast thing is just an excuse for me to get to talk to people to ask them all their questions in person. Mm-hmm. That's all it is. That's all it is. My claim to fame. If you could suggest one recessive to a beginner, what would it be?
Oh gosh. If I was to suggest a recessive to a beginner, it would have to be pied. It would have to be pied. Even though I lean towards clown, but it has to go back of the point that I was actually trying to make about something that's more appealing to someone. Because if you have a snake that has that pattern like a pied, which is mid-white or even high white, and whatever pattern it has on top, it's because it's separated. It kind of looks like that half and half ice cream, chocolate and vanilla. Who doesn't like chocolate and who doesn't like vanilla? So basically having that, it actually is a lot more appealing to people starting out new, or even that first time breeder or keeper, as a matter of fact, versus a clown. Clowns are the best. As a matter of fact, if you ask me personally, which out of all recessives is the best, in my opinion, it would have to be clown. But for someone that's starting out, it would have to be 5 more.
I remember when we first started, I talked like this is like 5 years ago. It's just a few months ago. I said, I never want to work with recessives, hate them. I bought them anyways. And I said, I'm going to say this now that I hate recessives, but in 3 years or sooner, I'm going to be like, I want to get into recessives. And guess what? I buy them now. They'll be ready for when I want to work with them.
There you go.
I already have taken that back. I like recessives now. We'll have stuff going this year, making hats. Later in the season, if everything goes well, I have the chance of, producing some killer lavenders. So, like visuals. So I'm really excited. But yeah, I eat my words really quick. I think just even staying open to the possibility of different morphs too. Because what I liked in the beginning is not what I like now. And that was just a few months ago.
I gotta tell you, me when I first started working with ball pythons, I was the exact same. I avoided recessives like you had no idea, like it was a plague, as a matter of fact. I avoided it not because of the way they looked.
Tell Daddy to give me the hypo.
I avoided them because of the time it would actually take for me to actually produce a visual recessive. And the first 4 years, I avoided it, and I regret that so bad that right now I'm at the point that I'm trying to play catch up. After 4 years, that I could have a lot of different recessive combos in my collection, but I was only stuck with codoms and dominant genes because I wanted the immediate result the following season. I regret that a lot. That was one of my biggest mistakes, is not actually starting out with a recessive project. It doesn't matter which one, but having a recessive project at least as a start out.
Yeah, I kind of know now what I want to do with stuff, so I've made up for it and I'm growing things out, which is fine. But yeah, Dad's getting me a surprise hypo. Tell him I want the visual, please. So you and I have something in common. We have Partho babies.
Yes, and I have her right here. I was gonna pull her out in a second to show you how she's doing.
Yes, I'm always so curious just because you don't hear of them often. Although since I got one, I hear about them a bit more.
And the funny thing is, I was a doubter about Parthos because I actually thought that couldn't happen. I couldn't even see that happening. But when I actually got my first one, and if it wasn't because it was from a super, in other words, if it was from an ivory, I would never have thought it was a Partho clutch.
Yeah, ours is a hypo full visual, and it came from a hypo. So that's the only way he knew. There's 5 eggs, 1 went south, and then he had 4 of them.
This is the girl right here. She just actually took a meal yesterday.
Look at her go.
She's extremely active.
Did you grab me the visual? There she is. Oh, she's looking stunning.
And I believe even Shane has a part, though, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, he's got a puzzle. This is my little girl.
Oh, wow.
Look at, she's the darkest one, so there was some polymorphism with that. So there was some that, even though they were Partho, they didn't look all identical. There were some that were brighter than others. But I liked the darker one, and she's just brightening up. Like, she is insane. She's not happy right now, but
the best thing that I love about hypos is the fact that as they shed, it kind of looks like they have that frost over effect. Like if you left them in the freezer and you pull them out. I love that look, especially when they're in that deep shed.
Yeah, well, she's got a fresh shed. Like, this is fresh. Like, she just shed recently. Like, she's just stunning. I love her so much. She's absolutely stunning. Like, beautiful belly on her and everything. Like, even their bellies are nice. Just
I'm actually really big on hypo. I have it
oh, baby.
really established in my collection, and I continue actually to work with that project because I love the hypo clowns. That's something that I'm really working with. I have, as a matter of fact, 6 females that I'm raising up to actually start working the male into them, but I'm raising up the females.
Okay. Yeah, I have the Pastavi double het hypo clown that I picked off of up off of Craigslist, like our version of Craigslist for $100.
I think I heard you talking about that.
Yeah, I verified it. Like I was able to contact the breeder, who is someone I knew of anyways, double checked all the info and was great. Yeah, you want to go back? No, she's doing well. There was a couple weeks there after we had moved where she was super stressed and wouldn't eat, and I started worrying, but she's back on track. Do you find you get a little more nervous over the Parthos?
Actually, no, because I'm at that point that at least if I'm seeing that they're feeding with no problem, I'm pretty confident that they're gonna thrive. Now the only sad thing, and I've actually watched R&B's video on YouTube. I think it was with Warren Booth that he talked about the issue that the Partho that could have is that they will only live long enough to at least sire a clutch or lay a clutch, and then
they're gone.
after that they won't be able to further on, or they won't live a full life like a regular ball python. In other words, they won't reach the 25, 30, or 40 years.
No, I think it was like 6 to 8.
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of like that ethical conundrum. Do I breed it knowing it's going to die, or do I let it live 6 to 8 years? So it's like, oh, man.
Breed them, let her serve her purpose, and let her continue her cycle that she was raised or born to be. She was born actually, in fact, to ensure her morph or her breed, so she can actually continue her purpose. That's the main reason I actually see that she should be bred. Because if not, then basically nature would have taken its course, and it could have been a slug, or it could actually be deformed or even died in the egg. But the fact that it actually went through all that to actually be produced and made, let it finish what it was actually brought to. Let it actually make its first clutch. So that alone actually answers the question to me. And both of my snakes, I'm going to breed both of them.
Yeah, I'm going to breed her. It's just I need to make that
make it count.
pairing worth it. So I don't know if to breed her with. The only male I have right now is the Pastavi double head hypo clown. I may go as far as to go buy a male for her. Just something with a little oomph in it, just to make that pairing worth it. Because I'm not making hets with her. I'm going to try to make as many visuals as I can with her. Make that pairing worth it. So, not sure yet. I have a few years to figure it out. So,
and you'd be surprised. Something that a lot of breeders will always tell you, the idea that you have with a female as a hatchling will always change as she grows up until the point when she's up at breeding size. Once she's at breeding size at age, everything that you had planned went out the door, and you'll find something at that time that will fit for that adult female to be bred.
Yeah, we've talked about even investing in a male visual hypo with a few codons in there, just to kind of make that pairing worth it if that's going to be her one thing.
And she came out this year, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
I think it was right around the same time you had yours.
Okay, which basically gives you a benefit because it gives you at least 18 months to decide what you would actually like to pair to that female.
Yeah. I think it was very, very. Actually, that's how I kind of found it about you. Was I was talking to Shane that I have this Partho thing, and he's like, my friend Ron at BBM Reptiles, go check out his video. He just did. He's got ivories, and I'm like, oh. So that's kind of how I knew who you were. So I've been following and asking questions because you don't hear a lot about them.
And the reason you don't really hear about them, I mean, like a lot of people, as a matter of fact, when they breed ball pythons and they have a majority of females in their clutches, they'll just scratch it off as I had great odds. I'm lucky. I got all females. They'll never actually consider that possibility because there's so many different morphs that are actually combined. For example, if you have a pastel male and you bred it to a bumblebee female and you produce everything bumblebees that are all female, the last thing you're going to think is that it was a partho clutch, only because there was pastel on both sides.
Yeah.
So
I was
that's
going to
why
say,
a lot of people miss on that.
Everything I see labeled that's partho is always the females types of visuals or supers or something allelic. Like, you know, you've got a ivory. Shane has a puzzle. I have a hypo. Like
now, I've actually heard someone suggest to me that he've heard from another party that the female is capable of reproducing herself twice. For example, if you have a pastel female and you bred, let's say, a Mojave to that pastel female, there has been instances that the person has actually produced super pastels. And I was like, but that's not how I heard Parthos work. And I was like, yeah, I've actually heard that the female could actually reproduce her genetics actually twice, and you'll get a super out of a non-super snake. So it takes it even one step further, the possibilities of what a Partho clutch actually means.
Yeah. Actually, I was just going to say that should explain quickly what a partho clutch is in case somebody's watching and doesn't know. So partho means that the female reproduced without a male. Viable offspring without a male. You see it a lot in mourning geckos. I didn't even know it could happen in ball pythons till a friend of mine produced that. And I was like, I'll take a female hypo. And he's like, but it's partho. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, all right, cool, I'm in. Because he didn't sell them. He only sold them to like friends who were breeders. So we would like breed them basically. So yeah, mom clones herself. Kind of, but it works a little differently. Warm Booth did a really good, it was on Herp House Rocks.
Herp Nation or
Herp House Rocks.
Yes, Herp House Rocks.
He did a really good video with them. I don't know if it was a Zoom call podcast or something that explained it. It's basically she fertilizes her eggs with her genes. So you could literally have like a pastel OD spider female, and out comes a partho baby that's just a pastel. I mean, but I think we notice it more when it's the supers and the visuals, or basically what mom is.
And the asexual thing also, that's another issue about that. And asexual, from what I've read, is basically, since the female sees that there is a male available, that puts her in the ovulation point, up to the point that basically she will, like the male sperm will actually get to the point that it'll initiate the process for the development of the fertilization, but without the benefit of the male sperm actually getting into the egg, and basically the female does the rest of the work herself. Now, I'm not real technical about that, and I just learned about it because I actually had a clutch and I looked into it because I was just curious what would be the future of that partho clutch of that snake, and how viable it could be. And not only that, I mean, like at very first, I had my doubts with the male. I was really upset because I paired a pastel super gravel, and I just can see for the life of me why was I getting ivories. And then basically when I started sexing them, that's when it hit me with the partho.
Yeah, it's interesting. I find I worry a little more about her. I mean, she had, like, right after we moved, because of the stress of the move, she went off food for a couple weeks. So she's back on it. She's slamming. She's doing great. But I kind of worry in the back of my head because I've heard horror stories of Partho babies just all eat, do well, then all of a sudden they just go downhill. I've heard that before too.
The ones that I produced 8. 2 were severely kinked. 2 were severely kinked, and the other 6, they thrived incredibly. I stood with 2, as a matter of fact, and I gave away 4. And trust me, if any of those would have had problems, they would have reached out to me a long time ago. But they're all feeding, especially the ones that I have. So
that's why I say, like my friend, he had the 5 eggs. 1 egg didn't make it through incubation, and then the other 4 girls, or the 4 girls that he had, all thrived. No kinks, no problem, nothing. I'm like, you really lucked out, because I've heard they can be kinked.
And my female, as a matter of fact, that produced that Partho, I don't have to worry about the condition of her repeating herself. It could happen, but she's not a first-time mom. I've gotten 4 clutches out of her, and this is her first clutch. So it's not something that basically I feel that it's her that she'll continue making Partho clutch, because out of 5 clutches, her very last one was this one. I'm breeding her this season, and I'm not worried about basically her making another Partho clutch. I'm not even considering that. That can happen basically with any of my females.
Oh, it's like a 1 in a million. Could you stop picking ornaments out of the tree, please, and thank you. Okay, goodbye. What time are you on with Chino? I don't want to keep you too long.
Chino will be at 10:30 my time.
Oh, 10:30. Okay, we're all right. So let's see. Why don't we open up to anybody has questions in the comments? I'll just go scroll through here just to see. I don't want to keep you too long because I know you've got to eat and stuff, and it's 7. I need the name of that group. Oh, the dating group. The dating group on Facebook for herpers.
I'm not even gonna
I looked at John, and I'm very comfortable in our relationship. I looked at John, and I'm like, can I join? And he's like, why? And I'm like, I can make so many python and snake handling jokes. And he's like, no. I'm like, come on. Marvel Balls UK is up. The snake that hisses and shatters at the clown. That is my clown. So I have this one clown, and it's dramatic, my visual. So the second it starts going into blue to the second it takes its shed off, it literally sits in a ball and hisses. Like, it's just sitting there hissing every 30 seconds. Which, when we were living in our old apartment, this snake rack was right beside our bed. So it's like 2:00 in the morning, and all of a sudden you hear hiss. And you look, and it's just laying there hissing because it's just cranky. Its skin's trying to come off. Like, it's not a happy shedder at all. He'll eat and stuff, but just a vocal shedder.
I gotta tell you one thing that scared me one time. I was working late. This is my snake room that I also have my home PC and I work at. And one time, very late at night, one of my snakes actually fluctuated, and I just jumped. It was like 2 a.m, and I jumped. I was like, "What is that?" And when I looked at the tub, I was like, "He blew up," or she blew up. The snake actually blew up after seeing it a few times or hearing it a few times. And I was actually such a noob that I actually posted a question on Facebook. And I got trolled a while, but then I was told that basically it was just a snake fart.
Yeah, I haven't heard it yet, but I remember when we got John's snake. I told you about the super pastel Angie when it arrived. So remember, I'm keeping lizards at this point. This is the first snake. I've had lizards. We got tons of lizards. I'm opening it up, and all of a sudden, liquid gushes down me. I'm freaking out. It peed, but I'm thinking urate, right? Didn't think there's liquid that comes out with it because I didn't know. So I'm panicking, thinking like something happened to this snake in transit and it's gonna die. No, it's just pee.
To be honest, all snakes they do that when they're trying to escape from a predator. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter what species or breed of snake it is, besides venomous, because venomous, who's going to pick one up? But
yeah,
snakes, when they're afraid and they want to actually escape, they'll release that musk on you
yeah,
completely, in that smell, and
yeah.
you're basically regretting picking that snake up.
Well, I thought something was wrong with it, so I wasn't regretting it. But I did not know that. That's how tells you how good I was in the beginning. I'm like crying, it's dying.
How do I get this
Joe.
back in there?
Then it proceeds to turn around and try to attack me. And of course, at this point, I do not like snakes. And here I am trying to like get this snake out of the bag, and no, good times. He's gone at school. No, it was not fun. Joe, Twisted Snakes 2020 wants to know what is your IG and your YouTube. I'll let you shout that out.
Yes, on Instagram it is BBM_reptiles, and on YouTube, BBM Reptiles.
I also put the links in the description. I even linked his Facebook because he has one.
Yes, you'll also find that BBM Reptiles on Facebook also. As a matter of fact, I'm not too original. I guess I just put the same thing. It's besides Instagram that has the underscore, but yeah, try to
Yeah.
keep it simple.
I try to keep it the same, but I found it on Facebook that your link can't have exotics in it. It's a prohibited word and against their policy.
Okay.
Don't know why. Wouldn't let me.
Hmm.
Let's see. Anybody else? I have a small following, but a loyal one. Just double checking. Awkward silences, because I'm still learning how to do everything and not to have awkward silences.
Awkward silence is what I like to do, especially when I start. Just to give you an example, when you're starting out your channel, especially now, and I congratulate you on making your YouTube channel.
Thank you.
Let your mind thought process just continue on the passion that you have at hand. Be it whatever it is, consider it like a conversation you're having with your spouse, your boyfriend, your children, and
Yeah.
you'll see that basically those lapses of silence will be very few, because that confidence of talking of what passions you will basically it'll let everything flow.
Yeah, I think I'm hoping to eventually turn this into like a real podcast. Like I have a few ideas. I still want to have like a new breeders night and a mentor night, and then just have like just come on and chat once a week and have a guest or something. But I like the interacting and having conversations. I'm not a fan of like, hey guys, it's me, let's show you all my stuff. It's not. And if I were to do that type of stuff, it would be parodies. Like I would make fun of I would parody other communities, like, my snake picks out my hair colored, or my snake picked out my outfit today. Like that type of stuff, just making fun of different vloggers and things like that. Like I just can't.
You'll create your own niche. It's basically what you feel comfortable with, and regardless what it is,
Yeah.
just basically have fun doing it. I mean, like, don't be afraid, don't be intimidated, don't be shy. I would say my advice, even to everyone who's considering opening up a channel, just go for it. Just go for it.
I like doing the lives. That's my favorite because I get to talk to people, and I said I don't want to be super famous or have a huge following. I just want enough that I can start getting people interested to wanting to come on and talk to me. Like I'm new. People don't know me from a hole in the ground. Would I expect JKR to come talk to me?
He
No.
will. He will. He will. He
But
will. Don't ever think, no matter how new you are, that there are people bigger enough to not to take the time to actually talk with you. And I gotta say, by experience, this hobby, this community is built, the majority, on new people. We need constantly new people. We need the initiative of each breeder or each keeper, no matter how long they have, to always have a fresh flow of people new starting in. And when you have someone new that does decide to start out with a collection or even open up a channel,
Yeah.
there's always someone that's a step behind you that's admiring the steps that you took.
Yeah.
So even no matter how big or how small you are, you're always inspiring someone behind you.
Well, I mean, I hope I don't inspire too many people yet. I'm still learning.
We all are.
Absolutely.
We all are. We all are. Trust me, we all are. Regardless of the time, we all are still learning.
Oh yeah. I don't think you ever stop learning in anything really.
That's the thing. That's basically life. There's always a lesson learned. I mean, like you
Yeah.
might get older, you might get wiser, but we still have a lot to learn along the way.
Oh yeah, especially, with this stuff, it's always evolving. There's new morphs coming out. There's new scientific data to do things. The species even itself is evolving. So I mean, there's always new way to do stuff.
If you give me just a second just to add this in there, I would actually implore everyone who has a chance just to explore what YouTube has to offer and see other channels in other countries. Even if the language is not your strongest and you can understand, it's see what other people are working with. For example, I am subscribed to so many Indonesian channels. I am subscribed to so many Filipino channels. I'm subscribed to European channels only because it doesn't matter if some of the languages I don't understand. It's the projects that they're working with that actually gives me ideas of what specific route I would like to take said projects. And unless I limit myself to my small local area, I can't see what everyone else is working.
I'm gonna have to start looking. I try to follow smaller ones as opposed to along with bigger ones, because I think part of the new breeder series I wanted to get started. Sorry, I have to switch headphones here because mine decided to die. Was to kind of help people get out of their comfort zone and start highlighting some of the small guys that I love and adore, but may not be wanting to get themselves out there or too scared to, type deal. So trying to get that done that way.
And like I said, what I mentioned before is you're always going to be inspiring someone before you, and that transition to that point where they will actually overcome that fear and sit in front of a camera or even their cell phone and just go off on what they just started with their very first snake, is always going to be inspiring someone that doesn't even have a snake. Yeah. So it's like a domino effect that basically everyone in this cycle interacts and inspires someone, either. And let me tell you something, even the people that are bigger in this, even the bigger dogs, they get most of their inspirations from new persons, because the new people, we come in with some ideas like, my goodness, I would love to see a Pastavi GHI asphalt highway freeway. And maybe the breeder who has that didn't think about that direction, and they just picked something up from someone new, just from the vision that a new look at a certain project can help out.
Yeah. No, it's definitely kind of, I always say I'm glad I got out of my bubble, because I kind of stayed in a small bubble, and it's only been recently I've been breaking out into the big global ball python community.
And it's a beautiful community.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, honestly, I am humbled to say that I've actually been able to meet and talk with so many great breeders, from the biggest to the smallest to the newest. It's the common interest that we all share, and no one is too big to help you out to answer a question, and no one's too small to actually give you an idea of a great project to start. And I think we lost you for a second. Okay, here we go.
Apparently, I disappeared. I tried to reconnect and it made me disappear. Oh, goodness. And everybody here okay and see me? I apparently disappeared.
Yep, you're back in here.
Gotta love technology. You let everything charge up and it still dies on you.
That's why basically I went with everything connected instead of actually going through my cell phone, because between the conversation and the interview that we're doing today, I have to do a follow-up with Chino. So I had to make sure that I'm not relying on the battery, and it's basically everything plugged directly into the computer, so I could just continue on with the next one. These
ones did, but then my cell phone drained. So we're still, over here, we're still working on getting all a nice webcam going and stuff like that. So right now I'm using my cell phone camera because it's nicer than the camera that's on my laptop right now, because that one does not work well. So
we're
working on it. We work with what we have.
Yeah.
We're big on DIY over here in our house. Invest in the snakes, and everything else can be DIY.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I gotta say, and my goodness, this is the scary thing that I gotta tell you about the ball python community. It's hard to get us to finish talking because we'll just keep on and we'll go on and we'll go on and go on. But the point that I was talking about is I'm a big do-it-yourself person here, and you don't have to have a Freedom Breeder rack or an ARS rack to actually have a great collection. I mean, like, we all have to start out somewhere, and most of my collections in Sterlite tubs, and I have the most incredible collection that I'm proud to say that I acquired during my time. And eventually, when it gets to that point that I can actually make that transition, at least I have something nice to move over. But until then, do it yourself.
DIY.
DIY.
Yeah.
It's
DUI is what you do when you drink and drive.
Okay.
No, we're like that too. We invested a lot into our animals, so getting the genes and stuff, and putting Sterlite tubs, making our own racks. But it's hard. Like, I know you can sympathize with getting stuff in because you're in Puerto Rico, which, if nobody knows, is an island. I looked on
surrounded by a lot of water.
But like for us in Canada, I mean, it's really expensive to import an ARS or Freedom Breeder rack. You've got to pay the Canadian taxes on it, like the duty. You've got to pay import fees, shipping. Like, you're paying for like 3 racks pretty much.
Same thing here. Basically, it's not as simple as actually buying a rack versus buying the rack times 3 just to actually have it down here.
And then you're looking at also like the conversion, like the price difference.
And not only that, I mean, like, let's go back. I mean, like, if you were to tell someone that's starting out, you need to invest in $6,000 in racks before you get that $80 snake, they're jumping ship. They're not even going to start. They're not even going to start the projects. They're not even going to start working or even interested in ball pythons. That's not the idea. And it's not that they thrive or they live better or have a better quality of life in a Freedom Breeder or ARS. It's just more convenient for the person that's keeping them. But the snake is not going to make that much of a difference.
Yep. I always said that the racks are more convenient for us than it is for them, because it's the way we can keep more in a smaller surface area. I don't want to say smaller space, but just because we can stack.
Yeah, because if we really want to make it convenient for the snakes, we might as well start making termite molds, in our living rooms, and really make it comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I also call racks snake dressers. I mean, let's be honest, it's a snake dresser. It really is.
And,
When we were,
it's a lot more better organized than my socks are, though. I gotta tell you that.
yeah, it really is. I think I pay more for like the Sterilite totes than I use for like the totes we use for our own belongings. I think I just shove those in cardboard boxes because I use all the good totes for the reptiles.
And you want to make sure they don't escape. I mean, like they have all the time of the day to actually plan. As a matter of fact, I breed my own feeders.
Same.
And feeders are a lot more smarter than what ball pythons are. I mean, like they learn from each other. So if you have one rat, if you have that one rat or African sulfur that decides that he found the favorite spot that he wants to chew on, just to actually make a hole in it. They
all will.
They'll all do it. I mean, like that's how smart they are. So, so that actually gives you something to actually work around and learn from. And if you got one that escapes, I joke around with this a lot because a lot of people, when they ask me how many snakes I have, and I tell them, in their mind, they're thinking, oh my God, he has like a crazy zoo. What do you do if one escapes? And I just break it down to them this simple.
Yeah.
I paid X amount for one snake. Can you imagine one morning I'm waking up to the shouts and glees of my neighbor celebrating that he just chopped up a snake that he just saw across in front of him? And when I go outside, it's a $10,000 snake that it took me 3 years to invest in. You know that's none of my snakes are getting loose. With that alone, none of them are getting loose.
Oh yeah, we've had the occasional one that was super smart, and we actually had one we had to revamp the rack, and it figured out how to slide the drawer open because we had it on a lip. So it was up off the heat mat, and it figured out how to slide the drawer open.
Yeah, I see that a lot, especially with the large females. They'll try to, with their snouts, push a wedge to try to get them way out. But the way that I actually have my racks, I have an extremely large lip on both sides.
Yeah.
So she has to be pushing like all day and the next one. And I'm always checking on my snakes before and after I go to bed. So I don't give them that chance.
Yeah, we're always checking. I laughed last night during the live I did last night. John was trying to get my attention and I was completely ignoring him. So we're revamping our racking system because snakes are smart. And a few of them have figured out how to open the drawers. So we have them in like under the bed Sterilite totes right now on shelves with latches until we revamp the, we're waiting for all the stuff to come in and start revamping. My Mystic Crystal, who is currently building, somehow hulked out of the Sterilite tote that snapped shut and found the clown.
Oh my goodness.
And they were all intertwined.
Wow.
Like about to lock. Intertwined.
That's a Romeo and Juliet story already in ball python.
So I was like, let's throw you that. I mean, that's the pairing I want to do anyways, if it proves it to be a male snake anyways. So John kind of carefully took them apart because they're, in the middle of the floor, getting groovy. And I'm like, John's like, okay, thank God you're done. Listen, we've got to go get this done. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, somehow the Mystic Crystal hulked out, got the clown, away they went, and they were intertwined. My first instinct is like, dear God, who did she kill? Because she's cranky. And he's like, no, intertwined. I'm like, oh my. So right now they are currently in a tote together, and they're hanging out, having a great time. We'll find out if they're going to lock or not.
What is your season? What is your season? From actually on that.
I'm not doing the whole season thing. I'm going with the animal. When the animal's ready, they'll let me know.
Okay.
So we're just starting. Once I know for sure the animal has laid, because we do ambient temps in the room that we have. It's 6 foot tall ceiling, and we have an electric fireplace in there for heat. and we're maintaining like in 85 perfectly with a fan.
Okay.
So we're doing ambient temps. It's working so great. The snakes are doing really well. So we're just going with the snake. She'll let me know when she's ready. She'll let me know, but I think after our first season, until I can really get the hang of it, I've heard people doing success with once they've laid and gain weight, start pairing them 6 months after that. I need to do a little more research into it. But yeah, we're kind of going with the flow here first season. I'm not in a huge rush to make sure all the females that are of size are getting bred this second. I'm waiting and watching them.
Okay. It makes sense. You have to actually go through the season and know what actually is your window that you're working with.
Yeah. Like right now we have 3 proven breeder females, and then my ivory is of age and size. Like, and she started showing signs. So we're going with that. So that's right now, that's what I have. But I mean, I have other females that could possibly lay in 21. We don't know. Depends on how they handle the rest of the year. You know, if they gain that little bit of weight, if they ovulate. So I would rather have a spaced out season and go all year versus bang, 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 bang. And that's what my goals are if I can do it.
Okay. All
I don't know if that makes sense.
Best of luck. Basically, I find that snakes are regional. They're basically they work with their environments that there are. So each region has their own season. I mean, like, for example, mine's only runs from November to May. That's my season. I only have a 6-month window per year. Regardless, other people, like for example, I know Billy does year round. Justin does year round, and Shane just found out that he could do year round. So
I'm hoping I can do year round just so I can space the females out, so I'm not like, oh my God, I'm slammed with all the hatchlings at once. But I mean, I'm going with what the females are they're gonna let me know. Could you stop? Not you, her. Children, anybody want her? She is going to be on Morph Market soon.
Oh my goodness.
Then you're gonna go on.
She's kind of blonde hair, blue eyed. Can I sell her as a belle? You have to grow her out though, guys. Have to grow her out. Just kidding. Just kidding. No, yeah. I don't know. I know a lot of the local breeders do seasons, but I'm just going to go with the flow this year. I'm going in with the great intentions that I'm going to do my best, but I'm not going to force my animals to do anything they're not ready for either. I don't know if that makes any sense at all.
Ultimately, with ball pythons, the female should decide if she wants to go that season or not. So it's not like we're doing undue stress onto them, because the female can either reabsorb because she doesn't feel that's the season that she wants to actually lay her eggs, or she could just actually retain sperm and then decide 4 years down the road to actually fertilize any eggs. So it's the female. So it's not really that hard for her to get a season off of any female.
Yeah. Well, I know like the Mr. Crystal was bull wrapping for the past month or so. So we were moving during the whole bull wrapping thing. So I didn't want to risk her like reabsorbing or anything. So I didn't bother. And then now that we're settled and they're de-stressed, and she decided to go after the clown, break free. So she's being paired now. My ivory was showing signs. She's being paired now. And right now that's it. But I do have 2 more proven breeders. I'm just watching them. They'll tell me when they're ready.
Yeah.
I'm watching. But I think I do want to invest in an ultrasound though machine eventually.
Yeah, as far as an ultrasound,
I have a bow tie.
I invested in myself 8 years after the fact, and not because I actually needed to, because I've bred for 8 successful seasons without an ultrasound. The only reason I actually invested in it is because it's an added informational tool that I can have, so I can actually have an idea more or less how to actually plan each season versus guessing at the end of one.
Yeah, I think with like what I want to use it for is to kind of confirm what I'm seeing to see if my eye is correct, if that makes sense, because I'm learning. But another reason is, you know, I'm going into first season. I'm scared of egg bound females. So it would be nice to be able to look with the ultrasound and make sure she's empty.
I gotta tell you something about that. You seen Shane? He went through that situation with his egg-bound female. I personally have an egg-bound female right now in my collection, and
I've seen that.
It's not gonna really even seeing if the snake is egg-bound or not. There's not really much you can do. I've known people that taken egg-bound snakes to veterinarians, and what they'll do is they'll put the snake under, they'll put it with anesthesia, they'll release the eggs that the snake has. Half of the times they never come out of the anesthesia. Half of the time they die after, because what if she decides to actually go through ovulation again? The ovulation alone will actually tear her up. So that's another thing that actually could happen. And I've heard of situations with egg-bound females that gradually they release the eggs during a 6 to 8 month period. In my case, with my specific egg-bound female, I'm not feeding her, and I will not feed her until the last egg is out. And that's the added benefit of having the ultrasound machine, is knowing when the last egg is out. Besides feeling, because you can actually feel it. It's not really that hard. But with the ultrasound, I can actually see how many there is. And I'm just waiting it out with her. And she's doing good, as a matter of fact. But then again, snakes, because they're cold-blooded, they have a high tolerance. So I can have a snake up to a year, and she can actually pass at the end of the second. I'm fingers crossed that she actually does make it with no problem. My plan is that she's going to be a pet. I don't plan on breeding her ever again. But I just want to make sure that actually she can actually survive that situation versus other horror stories that I've heard. And I wouldn't actually even sell it or give it to someone, because I know, and I've seen this a lot, and I'm sorry to say this, but I've been to reptile shows and I've seen some vendors selling animals that are pet quality only, and people would buy it and they'll end up trying to breed it the following season. So I wouldn't want to actually even give a snake knowing it had an issue, and someone will try down the line to breed it, because I don't want to put her through that.
No, I think, like, we've had the conversation that if we have something, like, what was it? We had a conversation the other day. If we had a two-headed snake, that was a conversation. But it was fine and healthy. It just had two heads. Will we sell it? I'm like, no, I'm not selling that. I said, that's staying here with us, because you never know what health it is.
There's a breeder here in Puerto Rico, as a matter of fact, and I've seen that in other pairings also. But currently, we have a breeder here in Puerto Rico that produced a snake with two heads, and it wasn't actually two heads joined by the head. It's two snakes with long necks.
Yeah, I've seen them before too.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, I even have a snake that was supposed to have a second head, and it developed only the eye. So it has a second set of eyes on its head. And that female, as a matter of fact, let me see if I can get her. I've already had her for 2 years.
Oh, wow. Now, will you breed her, or are you worried it's something genetic, or?
As a matter of fact, I really don't know. I might breed her. I might not. She's a black pastel yellow belly.
Ooh.
And I don't know if you can actually make it out. Let me see if the camera can show it. There you go.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that is cool. Is it functioning?
I don't think so, as a matter of fact, because this snake is already 3 years old and it's a female. But I kept her regardless, and she sheds fine with no problem. As a matter of fact, I never actually looked at her that much, but you can actually see that second set of eyes.
Yeah.
I can actually get her.
Gorgeous.
Autofocus on me is there you go.
Oh, she's so pretty.
But she's a black pastel yellow belly, and I love her, as a matter of fact. And if I decide to breed her, I'm curious to see if actually I believe it was an incubation issue. That is why she came out like that. But if not, she's still staying home. I mean, like, I had her for 3 years already.
Yeah. That's one gene we don't have yet, and we need to get into it, is black pastel. So we're hoping. We have a long list of wants, and then a long list of needs. So black pastel's on it. John tends to go towards the dark snake. Meanwhile, I try to go more towards high patterns and the lighter snakes. I mean, we have all our bases covered. But yeah, it kind of annoys me a little bit because it could be my big collection, but instead we have to share. It was you and Shane talking on a live how, you hit a certain number and you can just sneak one in past the white. Yeah. And I'm like, no, that couldn't happen in my house, because I'd be like, and who are you?
That actually works. Believe it or not, that actually works when you have a certain, and I joke around with Shane a lot with that too. And that was a joke that I actually learned from local breeders here in Puerto Rico, because when we would have get-togethers and we're talking about this snake, like, when you're a breeder, when there is a new snake. So when you go to the other breeder's house and you're celebrating that new snake he bought, and this happened to this one person, he invested pretty large in this snake, and his wife did not know that. And he just told her, "Oh no, that snake's always been there." So the golden rule is the snake has always been there, or you won it in a raffle. Those are the two things we go by.
Yeah, it kind of is bittersweet to do it with your partner, because like we have to run the genes and the price by each other before we can do it, and we have to be like, okay, so but what are you actually going to do with that? Don't be like, well, it's this. I just like that gene. No, what are you going to do with that gene? So, or like if I know the market price is something, I'm like, hey, so it's this, and this. Okay, that's how much it should be. What are you paying for it? Because I know, So usually I do most of the purchases. I know what genes he wants to work with, and I know what genes I want to work with, so I ended up doing most of the purchases. Funny story, he wanted to get into mahogany, so I decided to get him mahogany for our 3rd anniversary. Oh. So I found a smaller breeder who was making some amazing things, and I had bought a 1.0 mahogany male, and a 0.1 mahogany lesser HRA het hypo. I said, great, we got a het in there. It's a het hypo. He'll be able to do what he wants with it. Female's got a little bit of oomph. He gets really excited about it. That's what he's buying. That's what he's getting. So chatting with the breeder, getting to know the breeder more. Right before it's time to ready for ship, he goes, you sure you want that male mahogany? And I said, yeah. He wants to do, work on Suma Cinnipides, some Suma lessers. Like, this will be great for him. He's like, well, I got a banana mahogany spot nose HRA. And I'm like, no. That's what he wants. And he's like, I'll give you a deal because you're giving a couple, and and I had referred him to some friends, so he was giving me a really good deal. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to take that snake instead. Paid the difference, whatever. John comes home, and I'm like, yeah, snakes are getting shipped soon. I switched your snake. And he's like, which one? I said, the mahogany male. And he's like, that's ready to breed. Why are you changing that on me? And I'm like, I changed it to a banana mahogany spot nose HRA. He goes, okay, you're fine then.
The HRA was it that did it. That was the dealer, the clothes dealer, wasn't it? It wasn't?
The banana.
Oh, really?
He's a banana man. He wants to make banana mystics because he just loves it, but he wants to get like Suma into banana. Like he's obsessed with banana. All he talks about in our house is banana and mahogany. Like, I'm like, let's get you into some more genes. What was that?
Monarch.
Oh, monarch.
Monarch. Yes, that's another gene that I'm eyeing. I'm waiting to see the end results to see if it's allelic with ultra male. That's going to make the decision if I actually invest in monarch.
I was reading somewhere, I don't know if it's true or not, but maybe it's an old article or something. They haven't seen a female monarch on eggs, or is that like just urban legend?
No, I think they're talking about scaleless. Scaleless.
No, it was yeah, or maybe they were wrong, but I remember reading monarch, and I'm like, I didn't know that. I'm not a
monarchs. It's been out for a long time, and even though it's expensive, but yeah, I know people who have monarch on eggs.
Okay, that's good. Well, I mean, yes and no. I don't want it in the collection. I'm not a fan of it. I'm really not. But I like if I could get something in, we're looking at biting the bullet even this early in the game and importing monsoon.
Oh, I mean, like you don't have to go that far. Billy, and as a matter of fact, I think JP is it, or is it Will, that they're already invested in that. So
yeah,
the best thing to do is, I mean, like that's another project that I'm looking in, and I guess up to now it looks like the head is the way I'm going to work with that project myself.
Yeah, I think it would just be. I love it. I really do. I think it's stunning. But if we're going to go big on one gene right from the get-go, it's going to be monsoon. It's going to be, we've said, depending on like how our season goes this year, we might take anything we make off any hatchlings and just go buy a monsoon. Female. We want a female though.
Okay.
Because I know everybody's grabbing the males to make hets, so I'm hoping to grab a female.
You'd have to know someone that knows someone to actually get you the male.
Yeah, that's the thing, and my thing is too. All our powerhouses, our animals with the most genes, are all male. So if I grab that monsoon and it's a female, then I can start pushing. Like I have the OD Cine Enchi Fire / Vanilla. That would be great in a monsoon. That's our pipe dream.
To give you an idea, and this is the way that I'm actually considering about working the monsoon myself. Cost-wise, if I was to get into that specific project, and this is me, everyone has a different way of actually approaching any project, but because of the cost and the investment value, I personally am looking at going through het males with a morph and breed it to whichever female that I choose, and basically
holding back
all the females back, and I have a bigger probabilities of making it with whatever combo that I decided to breed it with. And because the male is 100% and he's basically proven, there's not an issue. So it's basically, it's a 1 in 16 odds out of a single clutch. So if I have 5 females, it's slowing it down to 1 out of 4. So there's a more realistic and economical approach in my position to actually work that project.
Yeah, that's another thing we've talked about too, is buying, a male het or first buying a female het and growing it out. And then in the meantime, we might be able to run into a male het You never know.
You'd be surprised. On Morph Market, there are a lot of male hets. There's more male hets than female hets, as a matter of fact. There's
That's
more,
what I'm thinking.
Females, but if you go on Morph Market right now, where you're going to see are a lot of male hets.
Oh yeah, that's why we're thinking like maybe just getting the female with like a codominant het if we can, like invest in that, start growing it out, and then along the way acquire a male with a codominant het and go that way, because it seems like
if you think about that approach, remember you're not only waiting 2 years to grow up that female, but you're gonna have to wait each additional year that she produces a clutch to bring back to that one single female, or how many females you decide to get, versus actually just having or investing in a single male. And to as many females as you can, and then basically bettering your odds or your chances with as many females as you have to breed back to that original male.
So good point. I know we've got some time. It won't be till like the fall before we make any decisions.
Yeah,
I also know like we're male heavy. We have 2 more females than we do males.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
My ratio, it cannot surpass 1 per 5. My ratio cannot surpass that.
What kind of killed us is the ours collection. If we want to both use a gene, like we bought a male visual pied, so we can both share it and not fight over it. So this year is a lot of creating our own females and holding them back, which is great. So the males make those hats, make those asphalt, make some yellow bellies.
You know that pickup that you just mentioned about the banana that you picked up for your husband? Those are the best ones, especially if he's a male maker, because obviously everything that he produces that's not banana is going to be female, and that's how you're going to grow your collection or your female army, using that male maker banana.
That's my plan. And he's actually, John acquired a Banana Fire proven breeder female. So I know when she laid. She just laid a few months ago. So we're waiting. That gives us time to grow out this banana mahogany. And then he's going to her too. Hopefully in the fall, end of summer, fall, depending on when she's ready, type deal. So yeah, that's going to be a fun pairing, I think.
Okay, good luck. Best of luck with that.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get some females out of it. But it is a male maker. So I plan on pushing it to John's going to put it to the Pastel Mystic, I think, next year too, if it's big enough to have more than. It's a really bad eater. I don't know if it's.
But it's a male. You don't have to worry about how long he'll take to actually be usable versus a female. Now, there's a big difference between a female and a male as a bad eater. A bad eater male, at least with 500 to 600 grams, you still can reach that within a year or even 2. A bad eater female could take up to 4 to 5 years.
Oh God, yeah. We had bought an asphalt from Billy. It was my first make, a female. And she wouldn't eat no matter what we did. I had her temp humidity textbook. She wouldn't eat. We tried live. We tried everything. We tried scenting. We tried braining. We tried, praying to the rat eating gods. Wouldn't eat. And we kind of got her to that point that if we had waited 1 more week, she would have went downhill. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she was just at that breaking point, and I said, enough's enough. It's time to, like, do an assist feed. Because you could watch her. She was losing weight, and she was getting weaker, and if we had waited 1 more week, I swear to God, she wouldn't be here with us.
Was this a hatch, or was it just a young adult female?
It was, she came to me in the 200s. So, yeah, she was, it was time, and she wouldn't even assist feed. Like, we had to get someone to show us how to do, put the rat or the little tiny rat pink in and gently massage it down in. We did that twice. At this point, I said, I give up. I'm going to breed my own rats. If she takes even live, I'll be happy. We started breeding rats. Soon as she had a taste of our rats that we produced, after she had those 2 force feeds, that thing eats like crazy. And she's now gained back everything she lost and then some.
There you go.
But she will only eat what we've produced. If you run short on, there's been times where we're short something, so we'll run to the pet store and grab an extra smaller pup or whatever. We have to make sure that one rat we grab doesn't go to her because she won't eat it.
Okay.
It's weird.
You see, that's a point that most beginners, it's hard to contemplate, because when everyone starts with a no ball python, you're already imagining the clutch that snake's going to produce for you, and you already have a timetable for that snake. You're thinking in 2 years she's going to be on a clutch of eggs.
Yeah.
And that's why there are a lot of breeders that's been in this for quite a while, that they will not, because the longer a snake actually takes to get to a certain age that she can actually develop follicles big enough to actually get to ovulation, the more value it actually drops, or the project that you have to skip. And I've seen a lot of people, when they have problem eater females, they will sell them off. They will not actually work with them, because economically it won't work with their projects. Now, if you're a hobbyist, I can understand that you'll give it the time that it is. But if you're an investment breeder, and you invest for a specific project, and that female is taking her time to actually start eating, and it's getting to the point that initial investment that you made is prolonged 4, 5, 6 years, that actually there's no reason I've seen actually to continue with that as an investment snake. It's going to breed eventually, but you no longer can consider it an investment project.
I'm just happy she's eating and doing well and is looking fantastic now. I don't care. I always plan in my head 3 years to get them to breed, and if they're ready before, bonus. So if she's ready to breed, she's ready to breed. If it takes her a little longer, she has, though, since she started eating, gained back everything she lost and then some. She's huge for her age, in a good way, not overweight, but she's doing really, really good. And I'm so happy. But I've heard of people being like, it's not eating, I'm selling it. And I'm like, that's not happening. No, we do everything we can in our power to get them to eat. That's
why personally, I mean, if you have the funds and you have the means, go for it. If you for example, if you want to invest that high, and I'm not talking to you generally, specifically, making a general comment. If a person decides to invest their life savings to buying a visual monsoon female, and they come across to the point that female does not want to eat for everything that you try, or worst case scenario, she does get to breeding and she's egg bound. I mean, there's so many things actually that you have to prepare yourself and be ready for whatever it could take you. That's why I actually think that investment wise, in my personal situation, I would go towards the male because of that. And I think I've entered that mindset because of my egg bound female that I got this very first season. I've been breeding for 8 years, and I've never had that situation to happen. And to actually think that if I was to invest in, because my initial thought of working recessive project was going with females first. If I was to have a high-end invested project and she would go off food, or even become egg bound, that can actually set me back 5 to 6 years because I relied so heavily on that female. So that's why there's two ways to actually look at this. If you're the investment type breeder or if you're the hobbyist breeder, then you can deal with those odds because it's not about actually making a quick return. It's the process of actually producing something. But then again, you can't tell me if you're investing $10,000 or $16,000 on a snake, you're not an investment breeder right there. You're not a hobbyist. Right there, you're an investment breeder.
Yeah, I think we're kind of halfway in between. Like, I definitely do this because I love it. I love the animals. I love the genes, and that's great. I mean, money is not my first concern. I could not sell a snake and not care. However, being able to have a hobby that funds itself and be able to, you know, sell the things I don't need to buy more animals with genes I need is fantastic. It's so great. So we're kind of in that gray area.
That's how my collection grew. My collection grew from what I call byproducts. Byproducts is basically it's the balance of between what I produce for myself and what I produce to fund or continue funding the hobby. And I have to make sure that I try to keep a balance because I have to know what is movable within the market and what is also accessible for people who are starting that still hasn't grabbed the concept that X snake costs so much because it's a snake. So I have to try to make a good transition, a good balance, and also cater to what I want to hold back for myself. But every single investment that I've ever done, and this took time to actually get there. I mean, like, it was 5 years. 5 years was an investment point for me. Everything that I bought came out of pocket. And I set for myself a specific timeline. I said 5 years is my cutoff. After that, any investment that I do has to be from what the actual snakes produce, so I can invest it back in. And I stick to that. I've been doing that 3 years straight, and I'm very firm with that. And that's the only way that I actually see that I can actually maintain a growth. It all depends what I produce, not this season, but 3 seasons down. It'll make the difference.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it helps too that we do breed our own feeders. Since we had some issues with the feeders once we moved, rats do not transport well, and they just got aggressive. We had to do a big cull. We just started having litters again, so we're getting back into that. But what I like about that is just like I raise mine a little bit differently than the average bear, because I mean we have kids, and my daughter loves the rats, so our breeders are our pets as well. So we have them in cages, like the big rat cages, which also means we can keep the colonies a little bit bigger, right? And then it's not exhausting the male too, so he can kind of stay in all the time. But I'm very hands-on with the babies. Very, very hands-on from the second they're popped out. You know, I give them 24 hours and I'm putting my hands in there. You know, and there's sometimes I've had to hand raise rats. But what's great is, so we cull anything with temperament issues.
Yes.
Straight off the hop.
Same thing.
Straight off the hop. A lot of people will give rats their first litter. If they cannibalize it, they'll give them their second litter. We don't. Done. I have something that can eat you. Great. We're done. But by doing that, we've had great male rats that have great, fantastic temperaments that I've been able to sell to people as pets. And why $20 isn't a lot, you know, for rat, it's put back into the rat, you know, that does a bag of feed. You know, it what we sell in pets covers my snake's food, basically. So luckily, our rats pay for themselves, which feed my snake.
And not only that, and excuse if I interject in this.
Yeah.
You know what your snake is eating.
Yeah.
That's like the main part of everything, because a lot of us, or not me personally, but a lot of people, when they buy their frozen thawed, you don't know the history of that frozen thawed. You don't know
Nope.
what basically went into that rat when it was frozen. And by the time you defrost it, and then you have the biggest issue. I mean, like, how many cases of salmonella? I mean, like, not knocking the frozen thawed industry. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I see that I know for a fact the benefit of raising my own, because I know what I'm putting in and I know what I'm getting back. The same thing as making my own heads.
Yeah.
If I make my own heads, I am guaranteeing myself that it is that heads. And if they're 50% heads, it's my 50% heads, and those are the chances that I'm taking, versus me buying 100% head from someone else and then guessing at the end of the season if it actually is that. But if I make it myself, as much as the feeders, I know what's going back into the snake. So I get that. I would say peace of mind when you work that way.
Yeah, and we found, since even like we make our own concoction to feed them. So we like to do fresh along with, your typical rat cubes, but we also mix this really high quality, expensive, high protein dog food as well. And my goodness, the size of our pinks. So we had 4-day-old pinks the other day, and they were huge, like massive, like the size of almost pups. And they were 4 days old. And she had 11 of them.
Wow.
And I'm like, they're just like, they're huge. This line that I have, like our line, but I know what's going into them. And I've noticed since we've started breeding our own, our snakes are doing way better. Like I said, I have that one snake who will only eat things we've produced for some reason. Don't know why, but I mean, we got her from, being force fed to live fuzzies to then pre-killed pups. And now she's eating frozen thawed pups or frozen thawed weans now, but they have to be ours, nobody else's. And then if you had said back in July, the snake was going downhill fast.
You see, that's the other thing that basically, especially people that are starting to be active within the hobby, is it's like a trial and error phase that I have to say that they're going through. And for example, when a person starts out, and I'm going to say that I'm guilty of this because I'm going to talk about my personal experiences when I was starting out. I wasn't looking into dog food. I mean, I was feeding dog food at first when I was feeding to my feeder, but then I found out in time that there's a red dye that actually can affect the liver of the snakes after they consume the rat that was feeding off of the dog food of that specific red dye. And not only that, when I was looking for the bedding, I wasn't using aspen. I was using pine. And there's a certain type of pine that it'll leak onto the rodents, which is also detrimental to the snakes, or even to the rodents itself. Oh my goodness! One of these snakes just. But someone that's starting out new, until they actually, and this is another thing. Even most of my rodents even had tumors. I even have rodents at one time or another that they would have tumors, and I had no idea it was the dog food that I was giving them. But these are things that as I was starting, a lot of people might be making that mistake, because you have to go through certain things to find out what works and what doesn't work. And a lot of people, they want to jump the gun and say, listen, I'm breeding this. I have this amount. I'll sell it to you, and you're buying, but you don't know what you're putting back into your snake. And then when you look 6 months down, you have a snake that's upside down, and you're wondering what killed it. There's so many different things. I mean, like, it's part of it.
And when I say dog food, it's not like the stuff you buy from Walmart. It's like you're going to a specialized
Yes, no, there is a dog food. As a matter of fact, this is what I've seen, because there's a certain amount of proteins that certain dog foods has that doesn't exceed what, for example, Missouri Block has, which Missouri Blocks, I believe, it's 18% protein. There's some dog foods that is 28% protein, and
the stuff we use is 30.
Some of those I've actually seen that a higher protein level makes the fur of the rodents look like they're sweated, like they're perspiring very heavily. And I've noticed that with high protein diets on some specific dog food meals.
Yeah, we use that mix that I told you about, the rodent lab and the high protein dog food. Like, it's not the stuff you would buy at like Walmart dog food. It's like good, like I feed it to my dog too. We feed that a lot to our like pregnant moms and nursing moms.
Oh yes,
they need that. They need that boost. It's not just going in there willy nilly. You know, we're careful with it. That's why we use the mix, and it's working fantastic. Nice big litters, big babies. You know, no risk of cannibalism.
I also have a benefit. I have a benefit that my spouse, my wife, where she works, sometimes she brings home leftover food. And something that I always ask is, bring me all the scrambled eggs. Bring me all the scrambled eggs you can. And I'll have bucketfuls of scrambled eggs, and those are treats to the rodents. And they love that. And if you want to talk about protein, that's actually great.
Yep.
We've done a week with scrambled eggs.
Scrambled eggs, chicken bones.
Yes, chicken bones is another must.
We actually had one of our female rats line her nest with chicken bones. It just looks really funny to see all these pinks lined inside of chicken bones.
But that bone marrow, that especially on the chicken bones, I mean, like that's that extra thing. And and I love that. As a matter of fact, I'll even because sometimes I'll go to my local supermarket and they'll have some strawberries just to give you an idea that's just about to be thrown away. I grab them up and I chop them up and I give them, and they go crazy with the strawberries.
Oh yeah, I always say before you throw it out in our house, before you throw out, either see if the rats can eat it or the ice pods, because we breed ice pods as well. So I mean, there's pretty much no food that goes to waste in our house. It's either the rats will eat it or the isopods, but it works so well. I'm so glad we made that jump to breeding our own rats. It cut our costs down big time.
Yeah, I mean, like I couldn't afford. As a matter of fact, I saw a video on YouTube of a breeder going through the cost that he invests weekly, and it's in the thousands for rodent food, for feeders, actually for his snakes. And at one time, we went through a very, very bad hurricane that basically it killed half of my production of my feeders. So everyone island-wide was going through the same thing. And to actually get feeders, it took me at least 6 months to rebuild my colony. And that was 6 months that all my snakes couldn't eat because I needed to rebuild that colony. And at that point, feeders were going to basically about $20 a rat here. $20 US for a single rat.
No, it's crazy. I mean, where we live, it's called the Maritimes. So there's like 3 provinces that are kind of grouped together, which is like a state. Province is like a state. And there's a lovely, lovely couple that they do feeders. They breed their own feeders. I know, like, they'll show you their whole setup. Like, they're fantastic people. However, they drive and do deliveries. But they only do it in your province once a month. And for us to get our feeders from them now, since we moved, we have to drive 3 hours to meet up with them to get it. So, I mean, just out of necessity of, if you're going to breed, you can't wait for that delivery day to have live fuzzies when you have hatchlings.
Yes.
You can't.
I definitely see, and that's another consideration. I mean, like, if you're down to 1 or 2 or even 10 snakes, I can understand buying, and you can actually space out. But when you get as far as breeding and you get your collection goes over, and that was told to me when I first started, because I've asked that question, how many snakes did I actually need to have to start breeding my own rodents? And they told me 20 was my benchmark. 20 was a starting point. When you reach 20, that's when you start at least having your first rack of 5.
Yeah, we started well before that. I remember when we were researching it, someone said you should have one female for every, like one female rep for every snake you have. I find you need more.
Oh yeah.
Like you need like 3 or 4 for every snake you own, especially if you want to start building ahead, because if it gets cooler, the reps are going to slow down breeding. If it gets too hot, they're going to stop breeding. Like it's just. And then you want to space everything out too, to make sure that, like, I'm thinking ahead of, okay, how many hatchlings am I going to have? I need to start making sure I'm going to have pinkies and fuzzies when I have hatchlings.
And not only you, I mean, like every hatching season, that's when I've seen is a decline of availability of rodents, because everyone has a new snake. And because everyone has a new snake, everyone is buying up every fuzzies or pinkies they can find. And when it comes down to you to supply your own, you don't reach those amounts. That's why it comes down to that you have to breed your own feeders, or at least
that was another reason. Even before we got into breeding, we thought about breeding our own feeders, was because every certain time of the year, there's a rat shortage. And especially this year with COVID, like in our area, we were hit with rat shortage, and we were hit hard. And there was a good couple months, almost like a month, like 6 weeks, I'd say, that I did not have rats for certain snakes. Like it was a lot of the smaller ones. I had bigger ones, because I mean, I could have doubled up on the smaller rats to the bigger guys, and it sucked. And I don't want to have that feeling again.
Yeah, and you know why I kind of believe, because I had this conversation even with Shane. Because of the COVID issue, the reality is because why we've seen an increase so much in the COVID era is because a lot of people were buying online. There was no more venues, so everyone had the comfort of actually shipping out snakes, and there was a bigger market for people actually buying online, because they had all that extra time to kill. So it goes back to the same thing. More new pet owners means more feeders have to go to those new snakes, which means less hatchlings or less pinkies or fuzzies for your own snakes.
Yeah, it was insane. It was even like in our area, we had a medium shortage. Like a medium shortage. And I have a couple big ones that if you try to feed them anything smaller than a medium, you're not having a good day.
No.
Like they're just too aggressive. So you put them on mediums, and they're fantastic. They're great. Good snakes. You try to give them a small, they ignore you and go straight for your head. So
that's not enough. They're basically wanting more.
Yeah, and I got a lot of help for it, because the standard is you feed your female smalls, and I'm like, well, listen, she's ignoring the small and she's coming at my head. I'm giving her a medium, and she's fine. They were fine. So I got a lot of heck for it, but I don't regret it, because they're great.
You want to know something? I've learned within the reptile keeping, ball python keeping, nothing is written in stone. So there is no specific guideline that says large snake only eat smalls. I will show you my adult females that they eat extra large.
Yeah.
And they're not even overweight. And they'll take extra large. But granted, I will give them a month before they eat the next snake. But they're and like I said, it's not the norm. but it's not even the requirement. So nothing in this is really written in stone how you have to actually work with these ball pythons, which why they're such a popular pet, because they're flexible with any situation. You know, we all don't have the same environment. As a matter of fact, I'm in a Caribbean tropical area. I work. You were talking about ambient temperature. That's all I run off my snakes year round is ambient temperature. I don't do anything at all to heat them up or cool them down. It's what the outside environment reflects is what the inside is.
Which is funny because I have snow. I have snow in my reptile, like our room right now. And again, we just moved a month ago, so we're still in the process of building everything up and making it look all nice and stuff like that. And you know, putting a lot of pride into it. It's in the basement. It's got 6, like, if I go down there tonight, right now, my bun's hitting the ceiling with the bun on my head. But because it's so low, and I've got it doesn't have any heaters in it, so I had to buy, like, a space heater. I bought an electric fireplace, cracked the joke, it's going to put the snakes in the mood. For some reason, it's working really well in that room. I don't know why. There's no windows because it's kind of in the middle of the basement. But we've got fans going to keep your air circulating. When the kids go to bed, we go down, we open the door, you know, and let the air go through. And it's working really well. You know,
that's kind of why I think that so many breeders stateside and up north, they can do a year-round breeding season with no problem, because they can actually trick the females into thinking that specific period is a breeding season. Versus running off ambient, I have to rely on the elements to actually, when the females, they feel it is the right season. But where you're at, that regardless of the snow that's falling, you can play around with the temperature and actually trick the female into believing it's breeding season at that time.
Yeah, we just started trying to do that, like speak it down a little bit to see if we can get just the ambient temp to drop a degree or two, and see if we can, you know, trick a couple people into it. I don't know. It's our first season. We're just playing around and having fun and seeing what happens. Tom and Casey had a typical origins. Hey, everyone, Kathleen, you're a machine deer. Listen, I go.
We've been going on for 2 hours. Yeah, that's what it was.
No, because I did a live stream yesterday. I did a live stream the night before that, and then I live streamed Friday. So now wow. I have 4 days off until my next live stream after this.
Oh wow!
And then I've got a bunch. I'm scheduled all the way into December. Like, I'm just going. As long as people want to come on and talk with me, I'm going. And I still have people that are like, I need to schedule a time slot. I'm just trying to get my schedule at work. Like Billy the other night on the podcast, a few of the people here jokingly sent him super chats, $10 to get Billy on Kathleen's podcast. So then Billy's like, yeah, I'm coming. So I got to work that out with him to get him on. So I'm hopeful that this is going to become something, and not even for me. I'm just having fun with it.
You're going to actually see, and you're going to surprise yourself the results that you're going to see, because like I said, the community is so incredible, and I mean, like, you're not going to find someone, no matter how big or how small, that's not willing to give the time just to basically talk out the passion that they enjoy in this. So I predict that you're going to be very successful with this. And with that, I want to thank you for at least considering me to be on here tonight. And I really appreciate the time. And it's been a hoot.
Yes. I'm going to double check if anybody has questions. We've been at it 2 hours and 23 minutes. You have another live. I don't want to tire you out, because poor Tino's going to kick me if I tire you out before his. But I mean, it's so funny because you get on these things and you get gabbing and you completely forget what time it is. I did one with Tom the other day that was like 5 hours.
Oh, wow.
Just on an Instagram live.
Yeah, and Instagram just started that before it was an hour time limit, and you would get that countdown. And I just found out with Chino last week, we went out at basically almost 2 hours, and I was surprised it actually went over that long.
The new limit's 4 hours. I found that out.
Because you reached it? Were you doing a telemarathon or something?
Well, it was actually the day you were on. You had popped in. We were talking. My grandfather actually had passed away that day, and I was just trying to distract myself. And Tom was doing something. He's like, "Anybody want to pop on?" Kathleen, come pop on. So I popped on with them, and it was like 5 hours later, and everybody had thought the Instagram live timer was down until Tom's like, "Oh my God, they time out at 4 hours now." So yeah, that was the day we were talking about the DNA my snake thing with the shed.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah. I remember I popped in a few times, and they were talking about how expensive that is because it's still in the I get experimental stage.
I mean, if you have I would do it. If you have a powerhouse that's 50%, I would do it. Like that banana mahogany spot nose HRA, 50% head hypo. I would DNA him.
For what it costs, just for the DNA, I would just buy another powerhouse and just play with the odds.
I mean, once it's mainstreamed, like if it was like say $60, like you can DNA your dog for $60, I would do that.
Yeah.
Am I gonna pay $200 or $300? Actually, $200. I'd probably do that for that snake. It's a world first. Of course, I'm gonna do it. But yeah, I should probably let you go. I do really appreciate you coming on. I'm so glad you responded and said you would come on.
Thank you. And like I said, I mean, like you've always been on my live and Shane's lives on Instagram Live, and we appreciate that a lot. And it's we the community is just about that. I mean, like just contributing with everyone and explaining and exploring and sharing the passion and just basically passing it on. It's the best part of this. And I thank you for inviting me.
Yes, you have an open invite to come back at any time. I have a lot of new series people, like new breeders, but I'm still lacking on the mentors yet. I only have a couple. I think Chino's coming on, Sal with Gomez Python's coming on. I'm going to see if I can get Predator BP now. I'm going to try to get the rest of the 4 horsemen. Yeah,
I'm definitely going to reach out to them. And I'm going to, as a matter of fact, I know for a fact that they do watch and they will be watching this YouTube. So I'll make sure, and I'm going to do a public request. Richard, Rob, please stop in Kathleen's live. You're going to have fun. She'll schedule around your time. And I mean, like, it's great. It's fun. And as soon as you see Shane also cracking up on this, and you're gonna jump on, I'm pretty sure you will. And I'm throwing you guys out there. So I hope to see you soon on this.
Yeah, Shane's next week. I have him. But he's not in the mentor. He's in the new breeder series.
Well, I consider myself the new breeder series also, if anything.
No, you're in the mentor series. New breeder for my channel is 1 season or less.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Well, yes. Thanks everybody for coming. Thank you again, Ron, for coming. If you guys don't follow him, you're insane. I left all his stuff in the description. Go give him a follow. Do you have any closing thoughts, Ron?
Guys, the season that you have is just as good, but the next one is always going to be better. Don't ever think that there's any limits. Just make the best of what you can. And don't worry about what other people are making. Worry about what your project is and take pride of what you're working with. That's the best thing I could say.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Ron. Have a great night. See you guys on the next one. Bye.
Good night, guys.